Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Moyra, I know that you want more than what the police have said at the moment, but let's, Attiq, just start with what they have said, which is that they have found reasonable grounds in their investigation so far that may likely now lead to corporate manslaughter. What could reasonable grounds cover? What kind of things could they have discovered?
Well, the way corporate manslaughter works is that an organisation, a corporate entity, has committed a gross breach of their duty of care, their duty to the end user or whoever is affected by that. So what they've done so far is collated masses of information, documents, interviewed various people, not formally under court, but general interviews. And what they discovered is that there may be evidence of a breach of that gross breach of that duty. What exactly that is, we won't know until we get more information further down the line. But prime examples would be mismanagement, not following the right procedures, overlooking key processes.
So if there was a warning about the cladding, that one is flammable, one is not, to ignore that could be part of...
For example, the resident saying, look, there's a problem here, and then nobody does anything, you know. I think that happened.
Which is what the residents were always saying.
Absolutely.
And could that then lead to individual prosecutions, or is corporate manslaughter completely, you know, it's either one or the other?
Well, often when corporate manslaughter investigations take place, police, as investigators, have a duty to look at all possible lines of inquiry for any other offences they detect. So often, when the corporate manslaughter investigations take place, you do see involuntary manslaughter or gross negligence manslaughter cases arising, and those are the ones where you can then prosecute individuals and people can go to prison. And the difference between corporate manslaughter is no prison sentences and no power of arrest, which is said in that letter. But what campaigners are saying is two things. One, we want you to go beyond just looking at corporate manslaughter and look at involuntary manslaughter and gross manslaughter. But also there's another concern, the time span, because it's going to be quite a while before we get a decision. A lot of people are concerned of evidence being tampered with or destroyed. Now, if that is the case...
before.
Yeah.
In the week when actually the council disappeared, and we wondered what had happened to our council, people are now concerned that actually documents were being shredded, and we're not sure. Obviously, it's just suspicion, but there is a very serious concern.
I mean, this is a problem, isn't it? Trust has completely broken down. So, in a statement, the new leader of the Kensington and Chelsea Council, Elizabeth Campbell, elected after the fire and after the previous one resigned, we fully support, she says, the Metropolitan Police investigation. We will cooperate in every way we can. It would not be appropriate to comment further on matters subject to the police investigation. Police have said, haven't they, that they will be, as part of this process, interviewing individuals, although, as you say, there's no timescale. Does any of this, Moyra, do you think, make people in Grenfell trust the authorities more?
Well, I think people welcome the actual, you know, call for corporate manslaughter, because that's been, I mean, we called it corporate massacre. That's what's come up on the wall of truth. That's been set up. So people do welcome it, but there is, you know, a very healthy, given the lack of trust, suspicion. You know, people have not been questioned. When they've been questioned, as the actual letter says, that senior members of both organisations will be questioned formally. When they've been questioned, and if charges are laid, which we believe they should be laid, at individuals who made these decisions, then the community will feel that we are going some way towards justice.
I suppose the process of interviewing needs to happen first, doesn't it, before that? So they've got to work through that. Taking the corporate manslaughter charges, there's no prison sentence attached to that, is there? But there are unlimited fines that could be brought. If there were huge fines levied, who would pay for those? And who would benefit from those?
Before I answer this, one other point I'd like to sort of tie in with that. The unlimited fines and the sanctions that are imposed, part of the mathematical formula for that is there's a level of harm that was caused by their conduct. Level of harm is measured in this context by the number of deaths.
So that's not the full story,
but
though,
we don't know what
we
don't know till now
that's
precisely.
A problem, but just in principle, that people watching can understand where a fine might be in any way something that could begin to feel like justice. You know, who would pay? Would it end up being the taxpayers? Who would be the people involved?
Or the residents of Kensington and Chelsea, which is what our fear is, where there's so little money's been spent on North Kensington that now we're going to have this money wasted, so to speak, or we're going to be doubly punished.
Legally, could that come back to people there, that fine?
It depends on what the judge orders, and it is envisioned that if there is any such sanction in the future, that part of the order would be for compensation. But the fact of the matter is this: a number of parties are being investigated for this, including the council, local authority. So any funds they have is public money. Therefore, you have a situation where the investigation is costing public money. Any sanction will come from public money, and so it's the taxpayer paying for it. And as Moyra correctly says, the residents are affected again.
And just to, how are people? I mean, just generally, how is life?
I think there still is quite a lot of trauma, pain and anger on the ground. We only had a meeting on Tuesday, an inquiry meeting, which was extremely volatile and extremely angry. And, you know, the meeting following that was very, not quite as angry, but very similar.
I think it must be difficult. The summer holidays have started, so in a sense you can't even get the kids to have a normal routine of going to school. And do you know what I mean? Yes. It must be hard for families still, I imagine.
Absolutely.